Hello folks, how y'all doing? This is Fat Guy Flies RC coming to you from the man cave. Now, yeah, your eyes don't deceive you. What you see in front of you is the Arrows F-15. And you're thinking, well, wait a minute, you've already have one. You've already unboxed it and built it and flown it and made maidens. Yes, I have. Y'all know that I am sponsored an affiliate and also an affiliate with Hobby Zone. All right. Well, they contacted me and they said, we want you to kind of redo your radio. You're fine with your everything. We're happy with it. But that plane, that particular F-15, belonged to me. I bought that with my own money. Okay, because I just love the plane. Well, it wasn't too long after that I became an affiliate and then became sponsored by Hobby Zone. They said, we're going to send you out another F-15, and we want you to do, not necessarily the unboxing, but just kind of go over a few things you may have learned about it after the build, and then also, maybe redo your radio, video, and setup. So that's what we're doing now. I've already unboxed it. I'll put a link to that unboxing video that's really only about 6-7 months old in the description of this video. And but we're going to go over the basic assembly. I'm going to cut off the camera. I'll assemble the plane, but we'll go over some key factors. But before I do any of that, there's a couple of things that I have learned with this particular plane that I completely agree with RC Informer. When he did his build, he made it very clear. He said there's not enough, these pigtails that come out that connect to your receiver, they're all labeled and that's all fine and dandy. But then when you look at your battery placement, in regards to battery placement, it really doesn't give you much room for your receiver, because this has a this is a great flying plane, wonderful plane, well designed, but here is a flaw. They should have routed these wires forward, okay? And if you ever have any real experience with putting these planes together and put receivers in them, there is not, because all this space up forward this is all dead space. Okay, you can't put a battery here. Okay, you've only got, and with the way this plane CGs, this is all going to be taken up by battery. Well, unless you got a really, really small 6S battery, then I got a minute and a half, 2 minutes of flight time, you're wanting to put a 4,000 in there. Well, the problem that is that these wires and everything, this big bundle, and then we get your receiver, you're not going to be able to shove the kind of battery in there that you really want. So what I did with the last one, and I didn't do it on camera because I didn't discover it until after owning the plane for a while. The thing to do is to remove the wooden tray, okay? Get extensions, which they're very inexpensive. You can get them off of Amazon. About 6-7 inch extensions. I've already got them plugged into the receiver I'm going to use. Oh, and by the way, Hobby Zone, thank you. They sent me out this AR631 specifically for this plane, which is what I'm going to use. And we'll do the forward programming and the safe setup and all that with it. But get yourself these real good quality extensions. You get them on Amazon. They're, you can get like 10 of them for, $8. And we're going to route these wires and put the receiver up here, because you got all this space. If you look at where that canopy dips down, you got about 1 inch there that you can play with, where the canopy's not going to touch, and that just screams. That's just the perfect place to put the receiver, and the antenna and everything will be out of the way from all the electronics. So it actually will help with signal. It's a better placement, and we're just going to go ahead and do that. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and put the plane together. Okay. Should not run into any difficulties, but remember, when you build this plane, there's two things. Before you attach, because you're going to permanently glue your rudders and your elevators to the back end of this plane. Well, you're going to have these servos connected, okay? And those connections are going to be buried and permanently buried. So make sure you check each one of these control servos before you're committed to locking them down. So let me just show you real quick. You just get I got this on Amazon. It takes 4 AA batteries. Okay, it comes. These two parts come together. You get sold together, and you just check your servos. See? Make sure that one's working. Okay, if it's working, then you know this servo is good. So now you can commit to gluing it down. Well, I'll do that with all four because you have to do it with the elevators also. Okay, I'll go ahead and do it with the elevator real quick so I can show you what I'm doing. Okay. All right. So now I know I'll do the other two off camera. But then I know that once I permanently glue in the vertical stabilizer, rudders, and the horizontal stabilizer, the elevators, I'll know those servos are fine. And I don't have to replace them before I even get started because the connections are going to be buried and they're going to be buried within the glue seam. So you're going to have the dickens trying to work on that, replace that servo later on. Okay. Now the wings, they just bolt on. You got nice hard metal fittings, screws, so you can easily take the wing off and work on that servo. That's no big deal. But the tail espionage is going to be permanently encased in that glue, so you got to make sure your servos and your connections are nice and secure and everything works right before you commit. Okay. Then RC Foreman, he's got a great tip on that, great video on that. So when he built this plane, and I thoroughly agree with him. But get yourself these extensions. I'm going to remove that battery tray. I'm going to anchor in the receiver, and it just will clean up your, and it'll give you room to where you won't, because if you put the receiver in there, like I was saying earlier, when you shove that battery back in there, I was always so afraid I'm going to hit that receiver or knock a wire loose because I got them connections back in there. I can't even see them. So this is a design flaw. This is a drawback of this plane, but I understand they're trying to, keep everything as cost effective as it is, but yet still as functional as possible. And so I understand all that. Okay. But let's get her together. If anything that comes up that's going to stand out, that's not already in my build video, then I'll show that, or I'll talk about that. The radio, I will do a radio setup the next video. I just wanted to show you these things that I plan on doing before I assemble the model. All right, well, thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. God bless y'all. Thank you, Hobby Zone, for sending this out. But when your sponsor says, hey, we're going to send you out to do this, you're like, okay. And if you're wondering what I'm doing with the other Arrows RC F-15, I plan on keeping it, but I had a little incident with it today. And, well, I'll have that video up soon. You'll see. Good thing I got this. All right, I'm putting the F-15 together, and I decided, well, I need to make sure that everything is, my tails and everything. Now I've hooked them up and I've done the servo tester, I want to go ahead and bind up the main fuselage. And I could not get the ESC to bind. Well, the reason is because you have what you call a U-back, okay? Or an S-back, U-back. Anyways, it's within its internal, and you'll see it jumbled around that bunch of wires, and it's wide in with this plug into a three-way Y in your rudder, because it just has to have enough power. This is what helps keep your signals and everything nice and safe inside the plane, so that when you deploy flaps and gear and everything at the same time, you don't have an overcharge of signal and knock the plane out electronically. So that's what these are for. They're a safe, so they are important. But the thing will not arm if the ESC will not arm. Therefore, the receiver won't come on. Nothing will happen if this doesn't have power. So I figured out, why is my receiver not giving power? There must be a U-back or an S-back, and yes, there was. And if you look, you take this little cover off that holds where your ESCs are tucked in. I took that little cover off and pulled the ESCs out, found the end of the U-back, and sure enough, it's unplugged. Now, they only plug in one way, black to black, red to red, but somehow tugging the wires and everything, it must have come unplugged, and therefore the airplane will not arm, and the ESC won't arm, so you won't be able to do anything. So if you're putting the plane together and you come across everything's put together, but you cannot figure out why the ESC will not arm, you just keep beeping and beeping and beeping, it's because your U-back is more than likely not getting the power directly off the ESCs. which is what it has to. So when I plug this in, we'll reroute this, probably using like a go get 'em wire, like one of these things. If you get, I'm telling you, buying a free wing plane is almost good enough to buy a free wing plane just to get these little go get 'em wires. But I'm going to use this to pull this U-back through, plug it in, and then I shouldn't have any problem. As I said, this is more of a detailed build, so it would take hours for me to really show in depth everything. So anything that's out of the ordinary, I'm bringing up now and I'm going to piece all those pieces together in a finalized video. All right, we'll be right back. All right, we're back and continuing on with the more of a detailed problem shooting for build and radio setup. If this is first plane you got, this is not going to be your first plane. This would never be a beginner plane. So I would going to assume that you already know how to set up or already know how to bind a plane and already have it set up and have it named and got your throttle cut and everything set. So with that assumption, we'll move forward. Okay. Now you picked yourself up this Fat Guy Flies RC, by the way. You picked yourself up a AR631. Okay, you've mounted it to where, this is just all scenario based. You've mounted it right here, sideways, but it's level. Okay, and you've bound it to the airplane, and you already confirmed, and this is very important with forward programming, that all your control surfaces work and they're going in the right direction, and everything is going in the right direction. Okay. And that is where we're at in this situation, okay? The aircraft is bound, okay? The aircraft is bound, and I've got right aileron, left aileron, up elevator, down elevator, right rudder, left rudder, and my flaps work. I use the profile from my original F-15. But the forward program is not set up. Okay, so that's where we're at now. And this is where you would start with forward program. Now you've got your model. We'll go ahead and take the nose off. You'll see why in a minute. And if you've never done forward programming, once you've got your model together, you've got your receiver mounted. And one thing about mounting these forward programming receivers, make sure they are mounted flat. Or flat going with the model, flat this way, flat upside down. Or they can be sideways, but they got to be flat and level. They can't be at a weird or strange angle. Okay. All right. So you've got this, and now you're gonna figure out, what do I do? I got forward programming, and they say I can make sure all my control surfaces are going the right way. Cannot stress that enough. Okay. So what you're going to do? You're going to go to your transmitter. Let me move the camera just a little bit so that I can see it on the screen. That's what helps me keep the thing level. All right, so you're going to go to forward programming. And of course, you got to have a transmitter that's the spectrum transmitter that supports this, obviously. Okay, we're going to go to gyro settings. See here it says first time setup. First time setup. Okay, has been configured, including the wing types. Okay, so we already got that. Everything's going the right way. We know that it's the right wing type and all that. Again, okay, we're going to set the model level, which it is. Okay, hit continue. Now what does it say? Set the model on its nose and hit continue. That's why I took that nose cone off. Okay, we'll put it on its nose. Hit continue. All right, it has determined where that receiver is, because it's communicating with that receiver. This is the transmitter, that's the receiver. It receives a signal. Okay, so it says that it understands now that that's the configuration that it's in. So we now the transmitter and they know what they're dealing with. Okay, now this is where I used to say just skip this, don't worry about it, but don't. You want to select this. Now I personally like using my roller. Okay, and that's on auxiliary 3. See what it says? You don't want to have it inhibit. You want it to pick, and you're going to just keep going until I get to auxiliary 3, which goes to my knob. auxiliary 3, and I'm going to hit enter. I'll go down here to next. Okay. That's the channel it's using, and that's the physical controlling device. I'm going to hit next. Okay. All right. Now we want to apply that. Now, the model went through its little dance. You heard the double dance, right? Okay. You go rebooting. You're going to go back to forward programming. Go back to gyro setup, and look what we got down here now. We've got, don't worry about F mode. We'll automatically go to that in a moment. First time setup. Yes. Now this is where it goes to it. Well, I like all my safe controls up here, but you fix whatever 3-position or 2-position switch you want. But I like, so you don't want to keep it inhibit, I like B. So I'm going to go with aux 2. Okay, and that is B. Okay. All right. So we got that set. Now we can hit continue. All right, now looky here. See where it says, this is where so many people have a problem. See where it says flight mode 3? I'm on a 3-position switch. Watch what happens when I change.
Low rates. Safe mode.
Okay, I've already got the audio call out signed to that. The computer didn't do that. That's what I did earlier because I had the profile. Okay, but flight mode 1 is which is my 0 position, furthest away from me. That's what I like. Okay, hit next. Hit next. Okay, now model's sitting there. Okay, now we're going to. It looks pretty level. And this is where it says level the model and capture the altitude. What you're doing here is you're telling the receiver and the computer and the transmitter what is level flight for the model. And that's level flight. That looks level. Okay. You highlight that and then you hit enter. Okay. Now, if you notice, because it's not perfectly level, we do have a little bit of negative pitch and a little bit of negative roll, probably because it's not, my table's probably not perfect, but that is not that bad. That's only just a little bit. If this was like a -8 or -7, then I'd take the model somewhere where I know it's going to be better and try to get these as close to 0 as possible. Okay, so we're going to be okay with that. Okay, and that recorded to flight mode 1, which is where I'm putting safe, which is my furthest away position of switch B. Okay. And those are the presets for safe. You don't mess with those. And then you're going to apply it. There. Model's going through its little dance. Okay. I'm going to hit continue. Go back there. Okay. It takes a little bit. Go back to gyro settings again. Okay, now let's go to the F mode. Now we're going to go in there. Okay, now if you look, it says flight mode 1. Okay, which is going to be safe. But notice how it says safe, it says inhibited. Well, I want to work. So you got to come down here, and then you're going to drag it over to self-level. Okay. All right. Now let's go back to F mode again. Okay. Now we know that in flight mode 1, which is where it's selected at, I know that that is safe. Now, what happens when I take my 3-position switch here and move to the middle position?
Low rates.
It goes to my low rates, or my flight mode 2,
high rates,
and then my flight mode 3. But if you notice, none of this, the rest of this stuff doesn't change. That's the way I want it to be. Okay, I want it to be that way. I only want safe when I'm in my position in flight mode 1. The other two,
low rates,
I want to be my high rates AS3X,
low rates,
my low rates AS3X,
safe
and
mode,
then the presets that come along with safe. Okay, now we're going to go back to high rates. Good. That means I know my AS3X is working, and I know everything's great and dandy. So let's hear them gyros. Wait a minute. I don't hear nothing. Well, yeah. Let's get back out of there. Okay. What's going on? I wonder. Ah! Can I hear the gyros now? Now, the reason is the gyro AS3X will not engage until you bump your throttle up over 25%. That tells the computer, okay, you can now turn the wind gyro on. Now, let me show you something. Remember we picked that switch, that roller? Well, I got them gains turned way down. Okay, I'm going to turn them all the way down to nothing. So, don't hear nothing, do you? You don't hear anything with them gyro. I know they work. Now let's turn it all the way up now. All the way over to the other side. Now, I can visually see them a lot more compensation. Okay? So, you're saying, well, what does that mean? Okay? Real simple. You're flying along and you've got your gains all the way up. In other words, the gains is how much the gyro corrects this outside forces moving the plane. Okay? The wind hits it this way, the computer instantly knows that was not you, that was the wind, and it moves the control surface just a little bit to level the flight out. That's what gyro is. Okay, it's just wind buffering, it's wind mitigation. It's helping you make a small model or a light model fly like a bigger, heavier model that's not quite so affected by the wind. Now it's not 100%, but it does help an awful lot. So, but my point was, okay, if you had them all the way up and you really got a lot of correction, a lot of the gains are all the way up, and you're flying along and you hit the speed and all of a sudden she starts doing this number here back and forth, that's called oscillating. That means your gains are too high. So then on the fly, you can turn that back down until that oscillation stops at that high speed. Now, if you have them too low and she's flying along and the wind is just making her all over the place, then you would find that sweet spot as that conditions of that day, because every day is going to be different in the wind. As she starts flying a little bit level, a little bit nicer, okay, then you have found the sweet spot. That is the nice thing about having the gains on a gain channel that has a roller, because you can dial it in or dial it out depending on the situation of how you're flying that day. Hopefully I didn't make that as clear as mud. Okay? Now, that is, and obviously we know safe works. Maybe let's go ahead and put back the safe.
Mode.
And the way you want to know for safe works is real simple. Pick up on the model. Look at them elevators. Okay? Look how they're holding their position. Look at that. Let me get where you can see it. Watch the ends of the ailerons. Okay? Look how they're holding their position. So if you're flying along and they hold that position, it's going to level out. Look how the control surface kind of level out now. Okay? Watch the elevators again. See how they're holding their up position? That would level the flight of the plane out. All right. And that's pretty much how you do forward programming. We've got it on a switch. I've showed you how to assign it to a switch. I've showed you how to do a gain channel and the advantages of a gain channel. Okay? And I've shown you how to activate your AS3X by getting your throttle up over 25%. So if you're absolutely stumped, you're thinking, well, the safe's working, but I can't tell if the AS3 is working. They don't do anything when I move. Have you bumped your throttle up over 25%? The other thing we've covered about that's particular with this model is you need to be careful when you're building this plane, assembling it, that the UBEC does not come unconnected, does not come unplugged. It's a very common problem with airplanes, and I explained to you earlier the SBEC or UBEC, I don't know which one it is, but it's basically overcurrent protection. That way when you're flying along and you throw down your flaps and you throw down your gear and you're doing a bank and turn, all that kind of stuff, all at the same time, there's a lot going on in the plane, and that just helps even the signal electricity out to where you don't have a brownout or it helps with electronics. I mean, I'm probably saying it wrong, but it's kind of like a surge protector in a way, if that makes any sense. Okay, and so we've covered that. We've talked about mounting your receiver, and with this particular plane, get yourself some extensions, at least like 6-7 inch extensions, okay, and run them underneath that wooden tray. It'll make your life so much easier. And look how nice and neat the wiring is now. Okay, I've got my battery in there. I've got the wires all nice and tucked in there. And this is a nice, neat setup here. Now, one thing I did have to do, because of how I have the receiver sitting there, remember I said there's a lot of room. Well, I still have the receiver just a little too far forward, so I cut the corner of this canopy off so that the canopy can sit down in there nice and flat and not have any issues. Okay, you do get one extra screw left over, just so you know. Other things of the model. Let's go over sub-trim real quick. What I'm noticing on this particular model, if you look at my ailerons, the way they're sitting there. They're not, this looks pretty level here. But over there, that aileron's down a little bit. But since these are level, I'm not going to go in there and electronically do the sub-trim. This would be a mechanical change. And what I will do, I'm not going to do it, I'm just going to tell you how to do it. You would unhook your ball link there, okay? And then you would just screw that ball link in and out and then when you reattach it to where this aileron is then level all the way across and doesn't have that little dip down there. You know what, actually that might be the flap is actually up. Yeah, it's actually the flap is what's up, and that's just that because that's level there. So yeah, this flap is up. So that would do the same process. Just unhook the flap from its ball link and screw that clevis in. More than likely, I would have to take the clevis in to make the whole push rod shorter to pull that flap. Probably just 1 or 2 turns will be all I would need to level that out. And these are things you want to do on the bench. Now look at the aileron or the elevator. Look at that. Same thing. Look where the, I'm going to turn safe off. Okay. All right. This is level here. This is straight across here with the outer structure is level here, okay? But if you look on this one, this is ever so slightly tipped up. Maybe not enough to worry about. You know what? That's actually, if it was, it's the same process as the flap. If one of this was just sitting up just a touch more, just undo your ball link and move your clevis in or out to get them perfectly level. I always, instead of worrying about like the inside structure of the plane here, if I have this kind of a situation where the elevator has a non-moving part of its body, then I'm going to level that with the control surface with that part, okay? And it should line up. That's pretty darn close on both sides. And if it's not quite right, not quite perfect, well, you know, you remember you did glue this stuff on, okay? And this is what leads to those weird characteristics of some planes. You can have 2 F-15s sitting right next to each other, either in full size or in models, and they can have the same battery, same pilots, same everything, and one's going to fly a little bit different than the other one because little tiny characteristics that cause the plane to react a little bit different than the other one. And those are actually fun things because each plane is like a child. You could have a pair of identical twins. You and your loved ones have a pair of identical twins, but both those children are completely different from each other in personality. They look the same, they are the same, but they're different people. Planes are the same way. And that's just my analogy for that. They're the same way. Alrighty, if you like, let's go over on this model what my setups are, and I'll just run through it. Sorry, I always forget that when I get closer I start talking louder. Okay, all right, let's go over. I'll show you what my rates are. Okay. For my high rates, I have 85% throws with the aileron. And then for my low rate, I have 60% throws for the aileron with 15% expo.
High rates.
Okay. Now we'll change to elevator. For low rates is 70 with 15% expo. And high rate is 90 with 15% expo. Okay. Rudder. Low rates is 85 with 15. High rate is 90 with 15. Okay. Let's talk about our flaps. Now, the flap settings, you notice I have no flap to elevator mix because this model does not need it. Okay. For flaps up, negative 100%. Takeoff flaps, negative 25%. Landing is a positive 100%. But let's look at how that translates on the model.
Takeoff flaps.
There's the takeoff.
Landing flaps.
There's the landing. Okay.
Flaps.
Very much, but you notice the elevator did not move. Okay. All right. All right. Well, that's pretty much it. Other than I'm going to fix that, even that flap out. That's pretty much it. This is a great flying model. If you put a 4000 in it, it needs to be a Spectrum or a smaller, physically smaller 4000. Otherwise, you're going to need to go with a smaller battery, like a 3800 or a 3600 or a 3300. The book calls for a 3200 6S, and but you can fit up to a 4000 depending on the individual 4000. And let me show you an example of that, and I'm going to show you two 6S 4000s and the difference in night and day. Okay. And not just in size, but also in weight. All right. This is a China Hobby 4000 with 55C discharge. This is a Spectrum 4S or 6S with a 4000 with a 30C discharge. Look how much physically smaller the Spectrum battery is in comparison to the China Hobby. It's shorter, and it's nowhere near as physically as large. Okay, you can just about completely can't even really even see the other battery when I hide it behind it. So this battery will not fit in here. This battery will, but it's a very tight fit. This is just, and this one weighs about 20 or about 100 grams more than this one, which is another significant, that's going to play with your CG and everything. Oh, and by the way, a real simple, let me look on the other one real quick, because I have it marked on the wings. I actually have it marked on the underside of the wings. CG is pretty much in the middle of the wings. I have a 3300 in there right now, but CG is like right about there. So let me shoot. Well, here's the model. Oh, and by the way, I was pleasantly remembered that whenever the model, the manual was not folded, it had a nice little, it laid nice and flat in there, which is nice. Okay, I know CG is in here somewhere. Okay, 125 to 135 from the leading edge root. Leading edge this is the leading edge, but on a jet it's the root. It's where the wing touches the fuselage. So 125 to 135 back is going to put it right about in the middle of the front of these wings right here. And so straight across the bottom. So pretty much right about there. All right. Well, folks, thank you for watching. This is Fat Guy Flies RC, and again, you're saying, "Oh, well, didn't you just do this model?" Like I said in the first part of this video, her Hobby Zone reached out to me, and we said, they said, your F-15 is yours. They said, we didn't give it to you. No. They said, okay, we're going to send you one, and we want you to redo some of the radial part of the plane, if you would, and then get us a new maiden on it. And I'm like, Sure, you're going to send me a free plane. And in the meantime, my F-15, to show you what I did. Okay. Number one, I busted the nose cone a couple of times where I had to buy the nose cone. But this actually happened today. I know this is kind of like a vlog also in a way. But I don't have this video uploaded yet. But I landed, and you see there's some bad gashes right in here. And this, I had such a hard belly landing, it literally snapped this gear off. I came in too slow, or actually I had too much of a higher alpha landing, which I shouldn't have had, and I was too slow. And basically I just slapped it on the ground and snapped this gear off. And the gear, when it broke away, hit several places back here. So I took that receiver that was in this one, and which is the same one that they've given me, which is an AR631, and I put it in that one. That's why I had the profile and everything still in the plane, and rebound it and start it over. And this plane here, I will keep it. Probably end up redoing, putting new gear on it, and I'll probably give it a new paint job or something, make it my own, you know, separate from this one. But I'm not selling it, so don't say it and send it to me. Okay, I'm gonna keep it. This is the one I'm going to do for promotions and to fly around. That's the one that'll be a project plane. So, all right, folks. Well, thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. God bless each and every one of you. Thank you for coming to my craziness and staying with me. And thank you. Thank you for Hobby Zone for sending this out. And we'll get this up in the air and do a new maiden on a new F-15. All right, folks. Y'all have a good one. God bless. Bye-bye.